Good. Again, thank you everyone for joining the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities, Florida Postsecondary Comprehensive Transition Programs webinar. As you know, this webinar is for our FPCTPs only. And the webinar today is about scholarship requests using FCSUA Salesforce Portal Round 2. All of you have had some great practice with Salesforce and the scholarship report, and then some of you will be new. If you don't know who I am, I'm Janice Seabrooks Blackmore, the Executive Director at the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities. Today, Claudia and I will be presenting and sharing with you about scholarship requests in Salesforce. Again, this is a round 2 from our December one. The webinar is being recorded. Please remember to mute your microphone, which it seems everyone has done that. Questions may be asked in the chat box or during questions and answers, so feel free to ask questions anytime. As you know from experience, this is interactive. We do have a handout with the PowerPoint, and that's to highlight some key things. If you joined us in December, you remember Claudia went through Salesforce. She's going to do that again, walk through that, and the PowerPoint is a reminder. And so you can kind of take a look at that and be able to ask specific questions with that. And download that. You'll notice it's in the chat box. Ashley has already downloaded that for you. If you have any difficulty hearing the presentation, Ashley might want to post again the Zoom information that has the phone number so that people could access that. That'll also be in the chat window. So without further ado, I will screen share. Let me get that up. Yep. Everybody can see it okay? Excellent. Okay. As I mentioned, the title, Scholarship Requests Using FCSUA Salesforce Portal Round 2. We've had a lot of rounds actually with you individually, so we thank you for reaching out to us and letting Claudia and I and Ashley walk you through it. And so we are anticipating a lot of clarifications during this webinar. If you have questions now that many of you are experienced with it, we do know that we have just a couple of new folks who this will be their first time. So I'll go right into the agenda. And you'll notice that I have the scholarship request forms highlighted. That'll be our major emphasis, but we will still go over. We always want to make sure that you can go back and review how Salesforce is laid out. So Claudia walked through an overview of the platform, and we get updates and changes all the time. The scholarship estimator we'll talk through, because you can't do that without talking about the scholarship request. The scholarship request forms, the scholarship disbursement reports, and then we'll emphasize some of the connections like we did in December for you to anticipate. We'll emphasize them again between the scholarship requests and the annual reports. When you are in Salesforce, so for those of you who haven't gone in as much and gotten as much practice, and we know that our veterans will be great help too, letting us know what needs to happen and what doesn't, and also giving us tips if it's anything that Claudia and I miss. But in the Salesforce, remember, there are 2 licenses available for each institution. Some of you have requested more than 2 licenses, and you realize you have to share. And some of you have decided to request just 1 and is sharing access information. Access to the portable is for the person responsible for scholarship process. You need to be there or using their credentials to log in. So keep that in mind. And one of the things that we don't want to forget, because we use your contact information all the time. So please go in Salesforce when you look at your contacts And if your contacts aren't updated, please update them. That's so critical for how we communicate with you, other than the emails we get. So always take a look at that to make sure. There have been a lot of changes this year. So please update the contacts in there so we'll know who you are. And Claudia is going to now share, move to actually the Salesforce platform. And similar to what we did in December, if you want to follow along, if you want to log in and follow along, that's great. We won't stop and do specific workshop per se, but you will be able to see where we are and then ask questions accordingly so that you won't get lost in the shuffle. Okay. I'll stop sharing, and Claudia.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Here we go. Let me find the correct screen. Here it is. Okay. Okay. Can you all see all right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So, well, first, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Let me go to the home tab. So first, always to notice the link to log in, the URL is fcsua.force.com. So that's the first thing that you have to remember. And that's what Janice has a few seconds ago on her screen, fcsua.force.com. That's the way that you enter our Salesforce community. So once you're logged in there, this is where you're going to land. This is the home tab. And this is basically a summary of everything that your institution, your FPCTP has in our community. Information related to the application, the grants, your contacts, the scholarships, and we're gonna add the annual reports now that we have those completed and finalized. So what Janice was referring to, and it was about the contacts. Where you do that? So you do that in the institutional profile tab. So every time, you know, every few months that if you have a change in your program, so this is the place to go. Click an institutional profile and make sure that everyone that's in here, their information is accurate. Same with the institutional information. So telephone number, website, address, everything. In this case, this is our test. As I always say, we have a lot of like contacts in here just to make sure everything works. If just come in here and edit your contacts with the most current email and phone number and roles, which is very, very important to know what roles this users has in your institution. So once you do that, and very quickly, let's just navigate over here until we get to scholarships. So you will see your FPCTP application. So your applications to be an approved program is going to be there. The grants as well is going to be here in the tab. And if you're going to work on your scholarships, here is where you have to go. You will also see, and we will be talking about this during the mid-year in the post-workshop, the annual reports. But if you're going to work on your scholarship, it's this tab that the one that you wanna visit. So let's get in there, click on the scholarships.
Claudia, Mary wants to know, can you delete contacts?
No. So that is the only thing that in the communities, in Salesforce community, they're not allowed to do. If they need to remove someone, they need to let us know. However, they can change someone's role. So if someone moved from one role to another in the same program, they can work in those changes by themselves. But the delete action, that option is not available for Salesforce community. So that is something we have to do. It's something they have to request to us. Does that respond?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's go here to scholarships, tabs. So I already have a couple cost estimators in here, and let's talk about this for a second, and especially why you're seeing more than one cost estimator. The way that this is set up in the system, this is very flexible to all your programs, especially because your programs all are very different. So if you need to have multiple cost estimators, that is okay. In this case, we have the example that we have. we have off-campus residents and on-campus residents as an example of multiple situations that the program can face. Maybe you have two cost estimators, one for Florida resident students and another for non-Florida resident students. Or maybe you have different concentrations in your program. You have digital design or Adobe related concentrations, and you have different costs for those concentrations, and you want to have different cost estimators. Maybe you have culinary, so you can have as many cost estimators as you need according to your program needs. So there are no restrictions on that, as long as you have all the information in there completed. So it's very flexible to the needs of the FPCTPs. So as you can see here, I have already created two. They're actually for this current academic year. The ones that you're going to create are for the next round, which is 2020, which is 2021, 2022. So
Claudia,
where
can you slow down for a minute and just make sure people are real clear on that, about the off-campus residents and on-campus residents.
Okay.
And this is particularly important for our programs that have a residential component. With the residential component, you know, for those who've been with us a while, that we had resident and we had non-resident, and we were referring to whether they were Floridian or not. And so as Claudia mentioned, the multiple cost estimators are critically important. We want to know for each concentration and or track, if you have students who are Florida residents or non, but more importantly for those residential programs, are they on campus, are they off? So you may end up with 4 for one particular cost estimator because you may have, for example, culinary, off-campus students. That means they do not live in the dorm. It doesn't mean that they are off-campus residents. That means that they live off campus and they're Floridians. But then you may also have culinary on-campus residents, which means non-residents, sorry, which means they are non-Floridians. And so, but they live in housing. And so we want to make sure that, and we'll work with you because not all of the programs did that. For some of them this year, we just worked with you and understood your situation, but we will be consistent with off-campus, meaning no housing. On campus will be those who are in housing. And this particularly applies to the ones with the housing programs, not the others. The non-resident and the resident is clear for those of you who have no housing, because we're talking about Floridians and non-Floridians. So we'll just kind of keep that in mind as we work with you on that component and how we want to be consistent in the way we identify the students in the tracks. Thanks, Claudia.
Okay, no, thank you for the clarification. Okay, so now let's take a look at how we're going to create those 2021, 2022 cost estimators that you're going to need for the next round of scholarship requests. So, so that is something you're going to do here, clicking on new. So every year you will create a new set of cost estimators and request forms. So you will click on new. Oops. Let me very quickly refresh. It's been here for a while. Okay, let me share. I'm sorry. Let me share back again. Go to the community. Okay. Are you seeing my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, there you go.
Something is coming up, but yeah, there we go.
Okay, perfect. I don't know what happened there. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say that we're going to create those new cost estimators for 2021, 2022. So it's here where you have to go. So you click on new and you're gonna land here in this online form. As I always say, and I guess that at some point we'll stop Janice talking about those spreadsheets, because everyone will be so used to working in Salesforce that they don't have to refer to the spreadsheets anymore. But this is a copycat of those spreadsheets that you were using a year ago. So, and something that we want to emphasize when you first create your cost estimators is you need to make sure that you're entering the correct academic year. In this case, for the ones you're going to create that are due on July 1st, it will be 21-22. You're going to select the program name. In this case, I have this test one created here, and something that we always emphasize, especially for those that are going to have multiple cost estimators, make sure that you pick the name, that you name your cost estimator in a way that makes sense, that is easy for you to identify and to differentiate between all the cost estimators that you might have in Salesforce. So if you're going to have resident students or non-resident students, or you're going to name it according to your concentrations, different programs that you have on your FPCTP, that's a good way to do it. So it goes in here, and it is a required field. So it needs to be in before you save your cost estimator. Then we have the special attention. This field is not required, but we think it can be very important for some of you, because the checks with the funds might need to go to a specific department or to a specific person. So if you are in that situation, this is the place where you enter that information. You put a special attention to that person that needs to receive those checks. Similarly, with the address, we want to make sure that the checks gets to the place that they have to go. Sometimes you have multiple addresses for your institutions. Just make sure that the one that you're entering here is the one that the checks needs to go. So we make sure that they get sent to that place, and it's all accurate. If we move to the right column, there is something that I definitely want to mention here, especially for the notification purposes. As you notice here, I'm logged in with a test account. It's actually the same person that I have here in the username. Let's say that because we're offering 2 licenses per institution, you are using someone else's license. Let's say that I am using Janice's license. So what I need to make sure before I save the cost estimator is that my information is here. So when that happens, the system makes sure to notify me as the person that is completing the information. So when we start receiving all those notifications that you have submitted your cost estimator, that there are revisions needed for that cost estimator, the person that prepared and submitted that cost estimator, if it's different and you enter, is also going to receive those reminders, those notifications, and it's going to keep receiving the updates until the cost estimator is approved and the request forms are also received and approved. So this is something that is also very important just to notice in case that you are using someone else's logged in. Make sure that you're entering your information. Let's add something in here. Really. Let's do that. Then here we have something that we think it's very useful for you and also for us. It's the comments. So this area, it's a good place for you to have any notes about your cost estimator. Anything that you want to let us know, you want to point out, this is the place to have that information. If we're also going to send you some questions, or we're not sure about something that you are submitting into the cost estimator, this is the place where we are going to have those comments for you. So this is a good place to have those kind of notes. Then once you have all this information completed, I wanted to see how these fields are all required. That's because they're all important. That's what they are highlighted in red. Once you're done with this first piece, we're going to move to the terms. So you're going to complete how much it costs to be in the program in terms of tuition, tax fees, meal plans, housing, books, mentor fees, transportation, internships, field trips, and any special technologies that a student might require. Something to notice in here is that all those fields are required. If you don't have a fee for any of those, you need to enter 0. If you're not doing that and you're trying to save your cost estimator, it's going to give you an error. It's going to tell you that it's something wrong. So make sure for those required fields, if you're not charging, let's say, tech fee, that you enter 0 in here. However, there are 3 fields in here that are older fees. We know that institutions have very specific fees that sometimes you have to charge your students. So here's where you are going to enter those special fees or those older fees. You're going to name your fee and then you're going to enter the amount. These ones can stay empty if you don't have those older fields. So those are not required. So you're not seeing the red asterisk next to it. So they're good to go. If you don't have those older fields, you don't have to enter anything in there. Right here we have fall, and the structure for spring and summer is exactly the same. So you will do the same for all 3 terms, completing everything that you are, any cost that your program has, and entering 0 when it's not needed. You have the older fees also for spring and then for summer.
Claudia,
Yes.
is there a way to clone this information from the previous year?
No. No, there is no way to clone. Every year they have to, so it had, the cost estimators has to be stored again.
But keep in mind, you have the students that will already be there, and you typically will only do your cost estimator once, because you do your cost estimator for the entire year, unless you have new students. So you're doing it one time, and then as changes occur in the year, if you need to add more students, then you're adding those students, but it's once a year that you do it.
Okay, any other questions, Janice, in the chat? I cannot see it.
It's there's a question about will it always be a mail check versus a wire transfer of funds?
Okay.
And the way that you've completed your W-9, I think Ashley and or maybe Melanie have worked with you and given you the link for how, if you want wire transfer, how that can be done. So we've, I know earlier in the year, and Diana, you probably weren't part of the team at the time, but we reached out to each institution to find out if they wanted their information, the scholarships, wired, or if they needed to mail. And at that time, those who wanted it wired got it, where it can make a faster transaction, and then others needed it to be mailed. And so if you need to reach out to Ashley or us or Melanie, we can send you that information to begin that process if you want to. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, Linda, if we have no summer session, do we have to put 0 in every space or just leave it blank?
Yes, if there is no summer, so if the program is not offering summer, because the fields are required, you have to enter 0 only in here, only in the ones that are required in summer. This one down here can be left empty.
No other questions right now, Claudia.
Okay, perfect. So that's actually a very question. I was going to point that out. Yeah, we know that some programs do not offer summer. So if that is the case, please just enter 0 in the required fields in here. The others can be left empty. So once you're done with your cost estimator, the next thing that you have, it's save or submit to FCSUA. So what are you going to do? If you're not sure, if you're still working on your cost estimator, you're not sure of all the fees that you need to charge, how much it's going to cost something specifically, you just save it. When you click on save, it will save it as a draft. It will stay there for you to keep working on your cost estimator. It will not come to us just yet. And that will happen when you click and submit for FCSUA approval. So once you're ready, once you know that it's done, that it's all is accurate, that all is completed, it's when you click and submit for FCSUA approval. What will happen after that is that you will receive an email. So who will receive an email? It will be the person, and I'm going to scroll up for a second, the person that it was entered here as preparing and submitting. That's why I was mentioning that it was important. the primary program contact, that person that you have in your institutional tab that is selected as the primary program contact will also receive a notification, and any financial contact that you have in your contacts list. And we also will receive the notification. So it will come to us, it will tell us that this institution have submitted the cost estimator for approval. So now it's in our end, we will revise it, and we will let you know if it's approved, it needs updates. If we have any questions, it will be in the comments, as I mentioned in here. Let me scroll down just for a second. So you save it if you think that it's not ready, that you still need to work on it, and you submit it for FCSUA approval when you know you're sure that everything is accurate in there. Let me close here, and I'm actually gonna open up.
While Claudia is doing that, we did have a few that forgot to submit. And then you had to follow up to ask us, did we get the request? You had saved it. And so that's a big step, an important step to make sure we can get everything in in a timely manner.
Right. So for example, this is how it looks. So if we have any comments for you, then you will receive an email that says that your cost estimator needs updates, that you need to log in back into the community and look at the comment section. So this is where you're going to come and look for those comments from FCSUA. It will be here in the comment section. Okay, I don't know. I don't think we're leaving anything out on the cost estimator. Janice, do we have any other questions before I move to the request forms?
I think we're fine. And I was
Oh,
looking
okay.
to see if there was anything else, but I think that's it. I want to go back to the question about if you don't have summer sessions. That's why it's important. That's why it's important to know that you can create as many scholarship estimates as appropriate, because depending on the concentration and track, a concentration in track might run fall and spring, whereas another one may run fall, spring, and summer. And so you want to be specific about that particular concentration in track, and that's particular for our technical schools, where you may have a concentration of track that just run for a couple, whereas the other one runs 3. So that's why you can make you will make as many as you need to, so you won't have them all clumped together. And you will indicate for each concentration in track, as you're thinking about your students, whether or not how many terms that will be. And so that's why the amount for each term is important. And like I said, we most likely will see that with our technical colleges, not typically with any other institution. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Oh, something else that I want to say. So let's say that you're done working on your cost estimator and you submit it to FCSUA. You're gonna start working on your scholarship request forms right away. So you don't have to wait until you receive the approval from FCSUA. So once you're done, you can submit the cost estimator or the cost estimators, and if you decide, then you can work in your request forms. They're connected, but there is no limitation on that. So so you don't have to wait until that is approved, until you receive any comments from the center on the cost estimator. You can start working on your scholarship request forms right away. And that is something that you do here on the second tab that you're seeing on the cost estimator. Let me go here, and then I'm going to actually show you this one. And I have all us as students in here. So once you click on scholarship request forms, you will land in here. In your case, you're not going to see anything in this list because you will be creating the new round of cost estimators. So what you will do is you will click on new scholarship request forms, and you will start entering the request forms for your students. Something important here, and you have 2 options to actually pull your students. You might have a situation that you have returning students. So those students, you requested for them scholarships last year. So their name and their ID is already going to be in the system. So you don't have to enter that student one more time. So the only thing that you will have to do is to search in here for the student, and it will come up. In this case, I'm not looking for anyone that is already in there. So that's why I'm like seeing no results found. But if you have a student that received scholarships last year, and something important to mention, and I think we can definitely talk about the connection to the annual reports right now. If you completed your annual report for your students and you indicated that a student is continuing next year, that student name is going to show up and here available to request a scholarship for that student. Let's say that you completed the annual report for another student and that other student exited the program. That actually means that the student should not be available to receive scholarships the next round. So that student name is not going to show up in here. So that is something that you can definitely take advantage of. So it actually is something that it's likely that you're going to make less mistakes because of that connection. Because when you work on your annual reports, if you say that student exited the program, you don't have to, it's not going to care about the reason. The student is not attending the program anymore. So that name is not going to show up in here for the next round of requests. So you will only see the students are continuing, that are still enrolled in your program. So those are the ones that you will search in this search bar. However, if you have a new student, coming on board. So that is a new student that you do need to add to your records in Salesforce. So that is something you do here, clicking on new student. So you click on new student and then you will be asked to enter student name and a student ID. You make sure to save it. Once you do that, it will actually, and as we do this, we say test student and we enter an ID and we save it. The information actually will roll up to the request form. So now we have a test student and we have the ID in there. So that's a new student that is going to be part of the program, let's say in the fall. After that, you indicate, we ask for the resident status, if it's a resident student, if it's a non-resident student. Let's say that is a non-resident student. This is actually already pulling from the cost estimator. So that's why we need to make sure that you're entering the correct academic year. In your case, it's going to be 21-22. Your program name is also going to pull from the cost estimator, and the information prepared and submitted by the one that you corrected, if that was the case on the cost estimator, is also going to come up in here to the request form. After that, you are going to work on the enrollment projection. So you're going to say that our test student is going to attend fall and is going to attend spring. So that's what you have to select. If it's going to attend also summer, well, you check the 3 of them. If we go here to the right column, you will see the description box. So this is something that is very helpful, as in the same way that it is for the cost estimator. Any notes, comments that you have, things that you want to remember about the student, this is the place to have that information. If you want to let us know something about something in particular to the student, this is the place to have it.
And that description has been very helpful with students this year because of some of the unique situations that students encountered with enrollment, and all of you who put a description in there were great on clarifying, and that helped us track everything. So feel free to make sure if there's some clarification about something that we need to do.
Right, and there is no limit, so you can always expand there. So if you anything that you want to enter, you just need to just click on the corner and you can actually make it larger if you need to enter the information that you need to enter.
Claudia, this is Linda. I have a question that I think is too complicated to put in chat.
Okay.
So I have some students who in a normal year would have probably been finishing all of their requirements in the fall. But things being what they've been, may not. And we've told them that we could potentially extend their time because of how unusual this year was, that they didn't get to do the same in-person things that would be typical. So my question is, some of them may be complete in the fall. Some of them may need an extension into the spring. And I'm not entirely sure yet where they're going to fall with that. Some of them may tell me now they think that they want the whole year and then decide no, or I may feel they're complete after the fall. So my question is, should I put them for fall and spring if I think probably this extension is going to be needed, or can I put them just for the fall, but then in the spring request the additional term?
The way I will do it, Linda, I will put both. It
Mhm.
is because the student, it's already in there, and it's easier to do, and you will see it when you start playing more with this, when you do the request and you work on your cost estimators. I will put both. I will definitely say that if you think that the longest time he is going to be or she's going to be, it's fall and spring or even summer, enter that as the enrollment projection. If that's what needs to change, or maybe, and Janice and Ashley, please just correct me here.
Mhm.
If the student ended up not attending summer and only attending fall and spring, when you're gonna do your disbursement report, the only thing that you have to say is, no, this student did not attend, we did not award
We
it,
did
we did
disperse.
not disperse
Yeah,
right.
this amount.
Yeah.
That's
And
what I was wondering.
it's all you have to do,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
the system will do the entire calculation for you, and it
Right.
will tell you this much is how much do you need to return to the center
Got
by
it.
June 1st next year.
Okay, so it makes
Yeah.
more sense to ask for it up front and return it if we have to,
Right,
as
right,
opposed to the other way around. That makes sense.
right.
And then I have a related question, which is we have a student right now who we're kind of on the fence about whether he should continue with us or not. He's kind of in a suspense right now until he proves himself. So again, I have the same kind of question. I don't know if I should put him down or can I ask mid-fall? Can I say, okay, we think he's good, and ask mid-fall, or should I just put him down now and again return the money, right? If we
I
decide.
think you can, if you think it's gonna be full at any term that you think it's gonna be, you should enter that. So
Got it.
and it's something that I think applies to everyone. Everything that you know is gonna happen, enter that. It's easier to request because you do this once a year.
Right.
If you have new students that are coming, let's say in the spring, then you just go to that cost estimator and you add the new student. But in that
Right.
case, it might be in a student that might be not completing the program or just leaving earlier. So
Mhm.
maybe you do, you say, okay, I know he's going to be attending the fall. Maybe he's only going to attend half of it. So you're going just to disperse half of the money or just a certain amount. That's what you enter in your disbursement report. And that's why you have the description here. If you want to have that kind of notes as a kind of explanation, saying that's why I just dispersed this amount instead of the whole thing, description and the disbursement report, it's the moment to do that.
Okay.
And again, you're doing an enrollment projection. And so
Mhm.
the best you can do to capture as much as you can, and then all of the funds are there at your institution. And so you have that to make adjustments. And we've had programs that had special arrangements when it's iffy kind of things. They've worked with financial aid to say, this is how we're dealing the money now because we're not certain. And so that's kind of where you are. The key is not to put them as an exeter when you're doing your reports, because once you exit them, they won't have a scholarship request available anymore. So you want to give them as many opportunities as you can for them to complete.
Yes.
And if you're not certain, guess. And it's an estimation.
Exactly.
Guess the enrollment.
It's projection. Exactly.
Yeah. You could just return the funds.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Amanda, do you have your hand right?
Yes, I have a question that goes along with Linda's question. So if the student did end up completing or exiting in fall, wouldn't they get less amounts of the scholarship? They'd only get half of it.
Well, sure. If you know that they have exited, Amanda, if you're asking if they're exiting a semester before they were supposed to, that then whatever semesters they attend, they get what they have. You have the estimation of what it costs for each semester. So it's only by that term, semester term, that they receive the money. Financial aid is not going to issue all of the money at one time. So if they're not there the next time, there's no way that you can, well, you will report that you didn't disperse those funds to them. Am I answering your question? If they thought they were coming fall and spring, but only come fall, for example, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of unknowns too, because I have a student finish in
Yeah.
fall. So it's like, would you disperse the 7,000 total or divide it up for the 2 semesters?
I don't think we disperse the amount that you request for the year. That goes to your financial aid department. And then as you request how you have worked out how you receive the funds to pay for that happens each term. And I doubt there's any institution that pays for the full year. They won't do that for typical students, so they disperse the money as the terms come. So the money's there, it's sitting at your institution, but it's not dispersed to the students until you indicate that they actually are enrolled that term, that they need the money. So yeah, you get the boatload, but you don't have to issue all the boatload. And that helps with timing and everything, where it won't delay you having their next semester or next term paid for. The money is already sitting there and it been accounted for them. I know you're asking another one. That's okay if this isn't clear enough, but I hope we're being clear. One term at a time. That's how most of the institutions pay for the students, even though they have the full year.
Okay.
Okay. I don't see another question.
Okay. So let's walk through this options down here. Once you have your enrollment projections, very important, and it's a very good question from Linda and Amanda. So yeah, once you have everything in here for your student, once you're sure, you need to decide what you're going to do. If that is the case, if you're not sure, you're sure that the student's going to attend all, fall and spring only, that is not resident, that you have everything in your description, then you save it as complete. If you're not sure, if you're still waiting to hear if the student is also going to attend summer, and you just have, you want to keep working on your request forms, you save it as a draft. And once you're sure, then you come back here and you save it as complete, and you will see how helpful this is when we go back to the student lists. Something that I do like a lot about Salesforce is this action right here. Let's say that you have a lot of students, maybe you have 2, 3, or 4, and it's easy just to click new scholarship, new scholarship. But if you have 20, you can do save and new. So what this action does is it saves the current one and it opens a new one. It saves a new one. It saves the current one with the data and it opens up a new one before, without you being, how to go back to this list and click on new scholarship request form. So it makes it a little bit easier for you. So here I have 2 examples, and I'm actually gonna do something, and I have them as a draft. So it's in the status that I am not sure if the students are, all the information in there is correct. And I'm going to select this 2, and you can see that I'm going to do submit to FCSUA, and it's not going to let me do it because they're not saved as complete. So something that you need to make sure is that they are saved as complete, because it means that all the information is accurate, everything is correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here into Janice, and I'm going to save as complete, and I'm going to do the same for Drew. And I just did it for 2 students as an easy example, but what you will do with all your students is once you're done, you will select all the ones that you want to submit, click and click, and you will click and submit to FCSUA. What will happen is, similar to the cost estimator, you will get one email. You will get an email that will say that your request forms for Janice and for Drew has been submitted. We will also get it. We will also get the notification. We will revise it, similar to the cost estimator. If there's anything that we're not sure, that we have questions, we will add it to the comment section, and we will send you the request form as updates needed. So the status is going to change to updates needed, and it will have comments in the comment section, and you will see the questions or the comments that we have about that student in particular. You will go back, you will to the community, you will log in, and you will revise it, and you will submit it back to us. Until, of course, it's approved. And then once it's approved, Ashley will come on board, and she will do her magic, and she will get all those funds out to the programs. The third tab, and it's also something that I do like a lot about this, it's the summary. So once you have all your request forms submitted, this is going to start creating a summary for you. And it's interesting how it actually does. So it's going to do all the math for you. Let's say that you submit your request forms. We got it, Ashley revised it, and she entered the awarded amount for all the students. So these fields in here are going to start completing with the amount that you receive for fall, the amount that you receive for spring, and the one that you receive for summer if you have summer term, and also the total. So this is all the amount that it was awarded by the center to the program. Then once you start getting all those disbursement report notifications, these fields are also going to start changing. As soon as you start doing your disbursement report for fall, so you're going to start entering that amount for your students, this is also going to start updating. Same for spring, same for summer, and it's going to do a total as well. So it's going to calculate everything for you from the totals. It also has enrollment projection. It's also a summary. How many students do you have enrolled for fall? How many do you have for spring? And how many for summer? And how many do you have in total for your institution for this upcoming academic year? In this case, in the example, we have 7. And also something that I do like a lot is this amount right here. So let's say that you did all your disbursement report, and you have students in similar situations to what Linda just described, that you're not going to disperse all the money because the student ended up not attending, the full projection that you have in their fall, spring, and summer. So because you're going to enter 0, let's say for that student that Linda mentioned for fall, the system is going to calculate for you how much do you need to send back to the center by June 1st. So now if you do your disbursement reports, you don't have to worry about making sure that you have the right amount to send the check back. Salesforce is going to calculate that for you, and it's going to send you an email a month in advance. It's going to tell you, Linda, this is how much do you owe to FCSUA by June 1st. And that in the email, the amount will be there. So you just have to make sure that the check gets sent to the center by that day. Janice, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have a question. And again, this is based on the number of, when you look at your cost estimators, you think about the different concentrations and tracks you have and how long does each one last. And so you'll do a cost estimator, program cost estimator for each one of those. If it lasts 1 term, that's 1 term. If a student is in it 1 term, you will write down the amount that it costs for that 1 term for each student. Now remember, students are eligible for up to $7,000. If your program lasts for 1 term and it costs $1,000, it's less likely your students are going to get $7,000. We're going to send enough for your students to cover the cost of that program. So you are mapping out the courses. You have already done that in your program application. You've already mapped out how many courses a student how many courses students will take per concentration and track throughout the year. And you've indicated how long your program lasts, whether it be 1 to 4 years. We've not seen anything beyond 4 years. So you have all of those courses pretty much lined out from year to year. So you want to, when you do your scholarship request and do your program cost estimators, you don't want to do one course at a time or one term at a time. You want to think about all of the year and the courses that the students will be enrolled and how much it costs for each term, whether they're taking however many classes they're taking, what is the tuition and fees and everything else you've included in your cost estimator. So if whatever you put in your cost estimator, travel, coaches, I don't know, all of that has already been or will be considered when you lay out for each semester how much it costs. What's nice about Salesforce, it adds it all up for you. So as you put it all in there, everything will be there calculated. And as you identify which term each student will attend based on the concentration and or track they're in, then we will award accordingly. So we will not award more than $7,000. So depending on what you put on your estimation and fees, we try to make sure we send an amount that will cover the cost that you have estimated for each term. If it's above and beyond $7,000, we do the best. We split it up in 3, we split it up in 2, or if it's just 1, we look at what's the most that we can issue that will help cover the cost for each one of the students. So Judith, I know you had some specific questions. If you have in your travel, in your cost estimator, cost for travel is included in that. That's what you have, as you've thought about what are the costs that each student needs to have covered for each term in which they are enrolled. And I'm glad you guys are going to get started in the fall. And if we need to, Judith, in this case, talk more, we'll be happy to schedule an individual call with your team. And we'll do that with any one of you, again, because you've been troopers since December getting it going. And we know that as we get more practice with Salesforce, it may take a little more changes or a little more time one-on-one. So we appreciate that. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's something that I think it's helpful to point out. I know we're getting to the hour.
Yeah.
If I open, and this example in here, it's see how we have off-campus residents and on-campus residents. If I open up off-campus residents and I go to the request forms, which is basically the students that I have associated with that cost estimator, you see that I have Melanie and myself. If I go back and I open the on-campus, the students that I have listed are different. So every student is related to one cost estimator specifically. So that's the relationship that you need to actually accommodate depending on your program needs. So that's why we say the system is flexible. You can have as many cost estimators as you need to, and allocate your student in the cost estimator that they have to be allocated. And in that way, we will know what do we need to award based on the cost, the estimation that you did for that off campus or on campus, or maybe Florida resident or not, or those concentrations.
Yeah, and thank you, Claudia, for going back, because that's something in particular with our veterans. We had it where we've had one spreadsheet and you put the costs in there. And this is really dynamic in that, addressing your question, April. No, you don't have to send spreadsheets. The spreadsheets are Salesforce. If we have questions, we go back and forth in Salesforce about any needed changes. So no, we don't have to have different spreadsheets come. They are bye-bye. They are gone. So any clarifications or corrections you need to make, we are monitoring it when you submit it to us, and we're giving you feedback, or we're approving it and moving it forward. So Thank you.
Just
Good. I'm glad we
one,
answered your question.
just
ahead.
one more thing I want to point out, because this is a question that we get a lot.
Mhm.
I think it's related to the relationship that that we were just describing. So each cost estimator have students related to that cost estimator. So those records are linked. If you're going to, if you want to edit a student in particular, you need to make sure that when you're going to open up the cost estimator where that student belongs, you are clicking in the right action. This is something that you're, and I think we have been trying to be consistent with the way that we do the edit or view mode, the way that you submit everything in here. So it's the same across all the components. So if you want to do that, you need to make sure that you're clicking in the pencil instead of the I. So the I means view, the pencil means edit. If you click on view for the cost estimator, and let's do it very quickly here, and then you go to your request forms, the actions column is not available. It's because you opened your cost estimator in view only. So you need to make sure that you're going back and you're open up your cost estimator in edit mode. If I do that, and now I go to the request forms, now the actions column is available and I have the action to edit the student request form.
Mhm.
Yeah, that I think it's something important to point out.
Yeah.
Janice,
Good.
anything else related to cost estimators, request forms? I know that was our main
Right.
purpose.
Yeah. No, we do know that you probably have started getting reports for the non-dispersed reminders for the non-dispersed forms. And Claudia, I'll go ahead and share. You have in your PowerPoint the
Okay,
handout. You have where we've included information about where to mail the information. So as you look at that, if you don't have that, and what to include in the name to make sure that we have the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities. Again, some of our veterans know that we've had some checks mailed to us and they've taken a while to get to us. And so we want to make sure that we get them where you send them, and that if they come to our institution, that the name that you put on your checks will make the other, if another program get it, will definitely know where to send it and know who it's for. But again, you have that on your handout if you take a look at that. Again, the reminders have start coming out. And if there are any variations, and we've already heard from a couple of you, in changes that need to occur, or things we need to consider, if you're not able to make the timelines, do what you've been doing a great job with, and that is letting us know. And we just get back with you and we keep a note and kind of track it down and just follow up when we need to. So your reminders are coming as you complete each thing, then you stop getting reminders. If you already know who's coming in the fall, some of you've done your recruitment and you have your applicants, you already know who's coming, who's starting next term, next year. You can start preparing, like Claudia mentioned, put them in draft form, start preparing your scholarship estimates, oh my God, why can't I say my word right? The scholarship estimate, and the request forms. And then when you're ready, even if it's before when we've asked for them, send it. Right. You know, there's no time in there. We have control of that. And when you're ready, and if you have that relationship with your institution, we will, you work that out with your institution. We'll send the money so that you can make sure you have it. So if you already know who's coming next year, start drafting out those request forms, and that'll be awesome.
Yeah, same with the so I always say that there is no restriction. You can do that with your cost estimated, your request form, with your disbursement reports. If you know how much the student received, you don't have to wait for those reminders to get to your emails to start doing something. Salesforce is available every day, 24/7 for you to have your data accurate. So it's for you to take advantage of that. So don't wait for the emails to come, and the reminders are only a way to help you out. But if you already know what you have to enter, just go ahead and do it. And something that I always say, it's not going to break. So don't be afraid. Just go in and play with that. It's not going to break. As you can see, there's no way for you to delete. If you're going to delete, if you need something to be deleted, you need to talk to us. So there is no way that it's going to break. So don't be afraid. Just go in. If you have any questions, just call us and we will help you out.
And again, we can't thank you all enough for going through trial and error with us as we refine it. And we're listening to your comments and feedback and doing our very best to make it where you can do it with your eyes closed. So if there are no other questions, we do thank you for joining us today. And this, again, webinar has been recorded. And if, and as Claudia edits the webinar, we will send it out to you. There's no evaluation to this webinar. So we just want to make sure you get the recording. And as many of you have told us, you go back and you look at the recordings to make sure you get step by step what to do. And so we're glad to receive that feedback and know that all is well. You can, if you need to contact us in any way, here's our contact information. If you lose it, you can check out our website, look at other events that we'll have coming up. We're looking forward to seeing everybody at the mid-year. And but if there's no other questions at this time, we'll go ahead and stop the recording. I'll stop sharing.